Please find your seats. Mr. Martinez, you have it ready to begin the practice session for Zoom. And in just a few moments, we will get started. If you want to take us out of practice session, start the meeting tonight. Thank you, everybody. We are currently live streaming the meeting. Dr. Warford, we're ready to begin whenever you are.
Okay. This meeting of the Mahwah Board of Education is open to members of the public to be physically present. Members of the public that attend will be asked to follow the same procedures as all other visitors to our schools. Those procedures can be found on the agenda page of our website. Additionally, the board meeting will be live streamed for viewing purposes only. Anyone wishing to view the meeting may do so via Zoom. The webinar ID for this meeting is 810-2491-3675. And the required password is 417598. All right, I call this meeting to order and roll call, Mr. Baker, please.
Thank you. Mr. Coughlin. Here. Ms. Davenero.
Here.
Mr. De Silva. Mr. Denise.
Here.
Mr. Gallo.
Here.
Mr. Kazmarski.
Here.
Dr. Park.
Here.
Mr. Cohn.
Here.
And Dr. Worthy.
Here. Adequate notice of agenda of this meeting has been provided to the Ridgewood News and the Record, specifying that the Mahwah Board of Education will meet on October 19, 2022, in the Lenape Meadows Elementary School, 160 Ridge Road, Mahwah, New Jersey. A copy was filed with the Township Clerk. Salute to the flag. Dr. Park, would you lead us, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do require a short executive session in the beginning, so I need a motion to recess to executive session. Mr. Kazmarski, second by Mr. Coughlin. We will be back shortly. a motion to reconvene to public at the meeting? Mr. Denise, and second by Mr. Gallo. Okay, agenda questions. Please limit your questions at this time to resolutions under new business on this agenda. As a matter of fairness, you are asked to limit your questions to no more than one, and your remarks to no longer than 3 minutes. If you're here representing a group, please identify yourself, the group, and your position in the group. If you are here as an individual, please give us your name and address. This section of public participation will be limited to 15 minutes. Please specify the resolution you are referring to in your question. All right, I need a motion to open the meeting to the public. Mr. Gallo, second by Mr. Kazmarski. Okay, we are open to the public on any agenda items. Okay, not seeing anyone coming forward at this time. Let's have a motion to close the meeting to the public. Mr. Copland, second by Mr. Coe. All right, superintendent's report. Dr. DeTora, what have you got for us tonight?
Thank you, Brent. Such a build-up.
I see things on here, so there we go.
There are a number of things that we want to report on. Obviously, the report behind us. We also have the district testing report. I definitely want to give a shout out, though, and I don't want to step on Ryan's toes down there, to the Mahwah High School students and staff. Last week was Spirit Week, and every single day there was something special, which Ryan's going to talk to you about. I just want to just anchor into one aspect of Spirit Week last week, maybe two. The first one is the staff soccer game. It's always wonderful to see our staff members get out there and play soccer against these young students. Word on the street is that the staff actually beat our students, Brian, so make sure you tighten that up for next year. But in all seriousness, they had their pep rally on Friday afternoon, and to see the different grades come out and take part in all these activities, and just had just a great time. It was wonderful to see. And there were a number of staff members who took the opportunity to get out and sing and dance and do all these other things that really was special to me to see our students and our staff connecting. Everyone was laughing and joking together, and it was just a genuinely wonderful experience. So thank you to the Mahwah High School students, the staff, the department chairs, everyone who was involved in making that special. Ryan, I know you and your organization had a big part in this, so thank you to you and your entire team. It was a wonderful event. Hopefully I didn't give up too much of your report. The report behind me, this is the Student Safety Data System report, and it collects 2 types of information from schools through our districts. The 2 types of data that I'll be reporting on are incidents of violence, vandalism, harassment, intimidation, or bullying, weapons offenses, substance offenses, and any other incident leading to student removal from school. Also, there's a portion of my report that will talk about HIV trainings and programs. This information is collected to fulfill the state and federal reporting requirements, as well as not only to the state, but to the District Board of Education, law enforcement, and to the state. The public school safety law states that all acts of violence, vandalism, harassment, intimidation, and bullying must be reported to the Board of Education. For those who have been at the board meetings before, I'm sure you know, and I'm going to remind everyone else, these reports happen twice a year. There's a reporting period 1 and reporting period 2. So reporting period 2, which we're doing now, is the second portion of the year from January 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2022. Behind me, you'll see a data set by school of all the different categories and the incidents involving our students at each of the schools. Obviously, as you can tell, on the left-hand side is the incident total, as well as all the different subsets, as you can see. The far right, you'll see HIV alleged, and then you'll see HIV confirmed. Just to give you some clarification, the confirmed, obviously, is self-explanatory. The alleged are the number of cases that did not get confirmed during the course of the year. As you can see, there are 2 asterisks here underneath violence and also underneath HIV confirmed. In going through our data, there was a case that was not added to the first reporting period, and I wanted to make sure that we reported it during our second reporting period. Also, you'll see on the right-hand side, after working with the state to get complete clarification, other incidents leading to removal, there are suspensions outside of these specific indicators. As you can see, after our clarification, for reporting period 1, for Rampa Ridge, there were 3, and reporting period 2, there were 2, and then down for Mahwah High School, the reporting period 2, we were reporting out for 7. So just for full disclosure, I wanted to show up these specific results. Also, we're obligated to show the trainings and the different programs that we have throughout our buildings. Obviously, there's a large number of trainings and programs that we have in our buildings. Trainings can be something as specific as working with our anti-bullying specialists to refine their skills and understanding the process in its entirety. It can look like training on cyberbullying or peer relationships, and also developing an understanding of conflict resolutions. For programs, those can range from assemblies to speakers that take place after school, or just different programs that they have embedded into their everyday program. That could be character education assemblies, a responsive classroom that we have at the K-5 level, Spirit Week at all different levels, and Week of Respect, just to name a few of the programs that we have to offset and really bring awareness of the importance of respect and valuing each other. So that's the extent of my report specific to period 2 for our student safety data system. The next part of my report, I would like to welcome Mr. Jarvis, Ms. Coney, and Mr. Gliata. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be reporting out on the various state testing experiences that took place last year. As we all know, there were a couple of years that we had a little bit of a hiatus, and they're going to be talking about all the different tests and proficiency aligned to each.
Good evening. My name is Don Gliata. I'm Director of Guidance at Mahwah High School. I'm with Danielle Polway, Supervisor of Mathematics, and Dennis Jarvis, Supervisor of Science and Integration Design and Engineering. Tonight we're presenting the Mahwah Public Schools District Test Report. I'd like to thank Board of Education for always for their continued support, community of Mahwah, and acknowledge the incredible hard work of all our teachers.
Good evening, everybody. So as Mr. Gliata just mentioned, we'll be reporting out tonight on different standardized assessments that were completed last year during the 2021-2022 school year. Those assessments include not only the Njsla, which tend to be all of the assessments we think of, but it also includes the NJGPA, which is a test. Well, we're not reporting out on the NJGPA yet, but that was a test that was administered last year for the first time for our juniors. The Start Strong test was also administered in the fall this year. Again, we're not reporting out on that yet tonight. We will be reporting out on the DLM, the Access tests, and the NJSL, just for clarification. So the first assessment that we'll be talking about tonight, and tonight we have 3 different types of slides. First, we'll introduce just a tiny snapshot of what that assessment actually is all about. Then we'll talk about how many students actually participated in that assessment, and then we'll go into some of the results of that assessment. So our DLM, or Dynamic Learning Maps, are administered to students who happen to actually be our most significantly challenged students in our most significantly specialized programs. These students are tested in grades 3 through 8, and they're also tested in grade 11 in ELA, math, and science. There's different assessment ratings for the different tests, so I think it's important for us to just mention that for this test, students their performance ratings are emerging, approaching, at target, or advanced. So last year, during the school year, and this number also includes any out-of-district students that may have participated in the DLM. There were 16 students in total, ranging from, as we said, grades 3 through 8, and then grade 11. So I just want to explain a little bit about this slide, because I did mention that the DLMs, the students that participate in the DLM would have taken or would have been assessed in 3 different subjects, ELA, math, and science. You'll notice that science is not up on the slide. So this goes for all of this explanation goes for all of the tests. If we wind up having a group of students that's 10 students or less, we're not permitted by the suppression rules to report out on that group of students, okay? So if I just go back just to illustrate what I'm talking about here, the science DLM is only administered to our 8th and 11th graders, so therefore we only have a student population of that test as 4. So that is the reason why we're not reporting out on the science test. So I'll go back here to explain here that out of the 16 students then that we did administer the DLM to, 10 students achieved at the at-target or advanced score performance level, and 8 of our students actually performed at the at-target or advanced performance level. So whereas we recognize that our students and our teachers, or our teachers were able to get our students to perform at really high levels, we also notice that there's room to grow. So again, it kind of explains what each of these intervention strategy slides have on the upper right-hand corner. You'll see an icon for the NJTSS, and you'll hear us talk a lot tonight about using data to drive what we're doing, to take a look at where we are. And Dr. Medina will talk a little bit more about that as we finish the presentation tonight. So the teachers in the child study team will have measured and studied the results of the DLM along with any of their school-based assessments to create and continue really, and also create different intervention strategies that are appropriate to each one of these individual students according to the constraints or the confines of their IEP, but also instructional as well as social and emotional supports. These increased instructional strategies are going to target the students' essential elements, which are connections to the on-grade level standards, but are adjusted according to the levels of these particular students. We'll continue to provide functional and PBL, which are performance-based learning opportunities, aligning to these essential elements, and we're also going to continue to increase the opportunities for students to be integrated into the general education setting, ranging from different experiences for students, from morning meetings to participating in cycles or specials to other extracurricular activities. The second assessment that we'd like to report out on tonight is the Access Assessment for our English language learner students, or can also be known as the MLs, or our multi-language learners. The Access is a suite of assessments that actually serves as a tool to measure proficiency in our English language, and the students are assessed in 4 different domains: speaking, listening, writing, and reading. The test platforms are built on different clusters. So again, you'll see in the next slide that we're only going to be reporting out on certain clusters, but all of the students that are in a kindergarten, ELL students that are in a kindergarten, first, second to third grade cluster, 4th to 5th, 6th to 8th, or 9th through 12 will participate in the same test for that cluster. And there's different scores for the 4 different domains. The exit score, or the score that measures their proficiency, is a 4.5 or higher, and it's on the composite score, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second. In total, last year, we had 58 students participate in the Access throughout the district. And this slide and this graph depicts how many students in each one of those clusters participated in that assessment. As you can see, we had a large number at the high school level with 14. We also had a large number at the kindergarten and first grade level. This slide's a little meaty, so allow me to kind of break this down for us a little bit. So, as I mentioned before, we will only be reporting out on clusters of students or groups of students that have a total quantity tested as 10 or more. So those clusters were the kindergarten first and 9 through 12th grade cluster. The different bars in each one of those clusters represent different average scores for the different domains that the students were tested in. Okay, so the darkest blue of all of those bars represent the average listening. The next one over is the average speaking score. The next one is the average reading score. The fourth over from the left in each one of those clusters is the average writing score. And the overall score is the score that's the very last one. So as I mentioned, a score of 4.5 or greater is what students are looking for, or what we're looking for, and is set by the state to exit students out of our program. Okay? So you're looking at those scores, but worthy of noting, that's the average score, okay? But worthy of noting is that 6 of our students actually exited the program due to their composite score of over 4.5. 5 were elementary school students, 1 was a high school student. We had 1 student graduate, and then we also had 9 students move through the district. So when looking at access scores, it's important for us to remember and understand the fluidity of this community of learner and what these scores actually represent for us. This year, we've implemented, and Mrs. Corella and her team have really worked very hard this year at really looking at our access scores and creating different programs that will target our students not only on grade level, but based on proficiency level. So that's one of our new intervention strategies based upon what we're looking in terms of our data. We've also worked really hard at creating these individualized English language plans. So think of it as an IEP, okay, an individualized education program for our students with disabilities. It's the same kind of idea, but for our ELL learners, okay? We've also worked to increase the capacity of teachers who are working with our ELLs through increased SIOP training, and we have we have continued use of sentence frames, particularly in language and math. We have a new support in the Lexia English program, which is an online program that students are using to help to accelerate not only their academic achievement, but their language proficiencies. And there's one more out there, though, that we just recently, and I want to make sure that I speak to the direct intervention correctly. So our scanner marker readers are also a new instructional support that our teachers and our students are using to help them to acclimate to that English language right from the beginning in our regular academic setting. Next, we'll move to the Njsla Assessments, which, as we mentioned before, is the first time that we've actually our students have participated in these assessments in 2018-2019, right? So it's been a couple of years, and these assessments are administered to students in grades 3 through 8, and also grade 9. Okay, and I'm going to speak a little bit to the math assessments because that gets a little funky when you start talking about the grade 9. So it's important to also understand and be reminded about how these assessments are actually taken by the students. So there's different units, calculator, non-calculator, and understand what we're measuring. So we're not just measuring skills and concepts, but we're expecting students to be able to be proficient in multi-step problems that require explaining. We're expecting students to be able to model and apply to the real world situations. Right? The scaled scores come out to us between a 650 and an 850, which then translate, according to the NJSLA units, to different performance levels on a score of 1 through 5. The first set of scores that we'll take a look at and we'll report on here On this slide are students in the grades 3 through 5. So let me explain these NJSLA slides in terms of the colors. Every time you see one of these slides, the blue bars will represent proficiencies or percentages of our Mahwah students. The red are the state scores. So as you can see, one of our points of pride here really is the fact that we are still outperforming our counterparts through the state, okay? So our grade 3 students perform 28% better than the state, grade 4, 20% better than the state, and grade 5, 23% better than the state. In grades 6 through 8, or the middle school grades, our grade 6 students are performing, all of them are still performing much better than the state. Grade 6 students are performing 11% better than our counterparts in the state. Grade 7, 10% better, and grade 8, 6% better. And I want to take a minute to take a look at those grade 7 and 8 scores to understand kind of the nuances with the math program. In grade 7, we offer the opportunity for a cohort of students to be taking Algebra 1 in grade 7, right? So they're actually not participating in the on-grade level grade 7 assessment, right? So those students' numbers will be in our Algebra 1 scores. In grade 8, we do have 2 other separate sets of students that have been afforded the opportunity to accelerate to the level that they can accelerate to. And in 8th grade, we have on-grade level testing on the 8th grade, we have Algebra 1, and we also have geometry students. So those scores would be included in the high school or the high school course scores or 9th grade scores according to the district, okay? So these are the 9th grade scores, which are not always, they're not 9th grade in terms of a 9th grade math. It equates to the math course that the students are actually taking or sitting in the 9th grade. So in algebra, 64% of our students in Mahwah scored above, they were scored meeting or exceeding their expectations, okay? 78% of the students in geometry met or exceeded the expectations, and then 71% of our students, Mahwah students, scored or they met or exceeded the expectations, and again, well above the state averages. While we recognize that we're still way above the state averages, we also do recognize that we do have some work to do, and we'll talk a little bit about what those interventions that are already taking place in a second. This slide depicts the total number of students in each one of the grades that participated in the NJSLA math scores tests, and will also show you the percentage of students that scored in each one of those performance levels. So moving from left to right, the different color bars will tell you the percentages of students that scored in those different categories. You'll notice that the Algebra 2 scores are not included on this slide, and again, that's because the number of students was not 10 or greater according to Algebra 2 in that group. This next slide also depicts percentages of students, but speaks to our subgroup data. Worthy of noting here is that there could be some students that are sitting in one or more of these different categories. So there's definitely a possibility that one of our students is being counted in our category or a subgroup of Asian, white, and ELL. So we could have students that are sitting in more than one of those categories. And again, as mentioned, we are scoring or we are meeting or exceeding those expectations much higher than the state, and recognizing that we've got some room to grow. So mentioned before, we're looking at data. We've already done a deep dive in the data that we've gotten from the NJSLA scores and also some Start Strong scores to take a look at where we are with curriculum, to take a look at how we can adjust where it's appropriate, where we can adjust for prerequisite skill remediation. And we've also taken a look at the subscores. We've taken a look to see what subscores need more attention than others, and we know that we are targeting the real world and modeling. We're also targeting something that we're looking at to have students be able to strengthen their ability to sit for long times, take long different kinds of tests. We're looking for perseverance. So we're working through all of those kinds of things within the classroom. Most importantly, we are looking to use small group instruction through grades 3 through all the way through the high school, so that we have more face-to-face time with our students, focusing on strengthening these skills and problem-solving techniques. And lastly, worthy to note there is that we're auditing our regular common assessments, our classroom assessments, to see where we are to backwards design for our curriculum and see to make sure that our curriculum is matching the expectations of where we need to go.
So over the next few slides, we're going to be looking at the Njsla results for our English Language Arts, or ELA. As we did with mathematics, I wanted to give you a little bit of background on the assessment to put it in context. So the assessment consists of 2 different units in each level, grade 3 through 9, for a total of about 2.5 to 3 hours per assessment. The assessment breakdown consists of 2 primary skills, reading comprehension and writing. In order to assess those skills, the assessment consists of reading comprehension questions, a literary analysis piece, a research simulated task or RST, and a narrative writing task. The scale scores fall between 650 and 800, and there are 5 performance levels that are going to be reported when you look at the results. The next slide here, again, what we saw with mathematics, are our percentage of students that are meeting or exceeding expectations. Of note, the ELA averaged just under 70% of our students across grades 3 through 9 that met or exceeded expectations. Additionally, when you look at, I should say, each grade demonstrated a higher number of, or a greater differential as compared to the state results. Specifically, you'll see here on this slide for grade 3, and on our next slide, we were 27% above the state average. To put that in historical perspective, when we look at the 2019 results for ELA, again, we maintained that differential as compared to the state. So as we move through our grades 6 through 9 slides here, again, highlighting grade 9, where we scored at 27%. You'll also see that in our 6th grade class, while we're still 14% above state average, that did represent the lowest differential with the state. That said, while we look to improve across the board, grade 3 through 9, we're going to continue to work with this cohort in particular with our targeted interventions that we'll talk about here shortly. Our next slide is our percentage of students that fell within each of our performance levels. As you can see from the slide here, our purple represents our level 4. So our level 4 and level 5 are our students who met and exceeded expectations. As you can see, the purple bar, level 4, represents the largest percentage of our students in each of these groups. Again, to the point of what Mrs. Bolway said, when you actually look at the data at each of our levels, and specifically here with ELA and our green, which is level 3, purple, level 4, we have a large subset of students that are right on that borderline to making that move to the next level up. So again, speaking to our targeted interventions, that is our goal moving forward to make sure that we're able to move those students forward. The same trend holds true for our subgroup data as well. Again, our purple are our level 4 students, make up the largest percentage with a few exceptions. And again, we do have students that are represented in multiple categories. So you may see some of those, some of that overlap or some similarities in some of the results as well. When we speak to our interventions for ELA, we're going to break down to our grade 3 through 5 and our grade 6 through 12. In grade 3 through 5, last year we started inserting our mini units in between our current units of study. The idea being is that we wanted to address skills that require more exposure or more practice for our students. And as an example, we have a mini unit that was inserted in figurative language and poetry, the idea of which was to continue to reinforce our focus on that area. Obviously, all areas are in need of improvement, or we'd love to improve all areas, and that's one area that we're focusing on as well. We move up to grade 6 through 12, literary analysis interventions stressed, specifically in that grade 6 class cohort. This is going to be largely accomplished through a lot of our close reading exercises that focus in on the understanding of main ideas and supporting details. Additional close reading will focus on evidence and support analysis and making relevant connections to the content. More emphasis is going to be placed on targeting vocabulary in context as opposed to isolation, which has classically been taught. I'm probably sure most of us are familiar with that. And then we're finally, the last piece of this is we're going to take a much closer look at the departmental common assessments for the purposes of data collection moving forward. So finally, we're going to move on to our last content area assessment, which is our science Njsla. Again, I wanted to give you a little bit of a rundown of the assessment to put in perspective the results you'll be looking at. So the science Njsla is designed to ask questions in the vein of the next generation science data, which are three-dimensional questions. And essentially what that means is we're looking at our content, which is our life science, earth science, and physical science, interwoven with our science and engineering practices, which then we layer on top our cross-cutting concepts. So the questions ideally contain a little bit of each of those different domains. The assessment consists of 4 different units. We test at grades 5, 8, and 11. Those are the natural break in the standards. So we don't test it every year. We only focus on those for years. And the tests range anywhere from 3 hours to 4 hours, depending upon the time, depending on the grade, I should say. Our scale scores are between 100 and 300, and unlike mathematics and ELA, we only report out on four levels of progression. So, in this next slide, we're going to take a look at the percentages of students that either met or exceeded their expectations. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that there was a significant shift over the past 2 years in some aspects of our science instruction. Obviously, we're returning to that this year. The pandemic put us in a place where we were forced into remote learning. It truncated our schedule in terms of the amount of time that we were able to spend on science instruction. At the elementary level, the district made a commitment to focus on ELA and mathematics while students were physically in session. So any activities that were science or social studies based were either fully remote or at home. Additionally, that filtered down to our makerspace, our makerspace experiences, which we pride ourselves on at the 3-5 level. This is where we teach our students the engineering design process. Those, unfortunately, had to be put on hold as well. Certainly, all of these factors factor into the scores you're seeing up there, but the reality is these are our results. We accept them, we have to live with them, and as a science supervisor, it's my commitment that we're going to put the work in that we need to in order to improve these results. Okay. So the percentages you see here, obviously fall far below what we expect. But if we're going to glean a little bit of some positivity out of this, when you compare to our 2019 results, okay, obviously grade 5 demonstrates the greatest impact in terms of their performance. Grade 8, however, held pretty consistent, which is a sign of optimism. In our grade 11, we actually demonstrated overall growth. Our overall score increased. Our percentages of students that met or exceeded expectations increased, and the 6 different domains in which we were tested also increased. So there was no drop at all, which is a very promising outcome. Again, looking at our percentages of students at each performance level, we're looking at 4 levels, not 5. Our red color in the middle there is our level 2. These are our students that are approaching expectations. When you do a deep dive into the data, again, we have a large percentage of our students at level 1, level 2, and level 3 that are a very small adjustment level away from moving up to the next level. That said, that's our commitment to target these interventions and make this demographic, make this landscape look significantly different when we report out next year. And you'll also see the same holds true for our demographic subgroup results as well. Again, our red bar demonstrating our students who are near standards. Same holds true here. We are looking to target interventions, to target those students, of course all students, but realizing that we have a large majority of our students that are waiting at that next level to move up. Okay? So to speak to those interventions, again, we'll divide it up 3-5 and we'll divide it up 6-12. At grades level 3-5, we've already started the analysis of the current trends and addressing any gaps in the standards coverage across grades 3-5. That analysis continues, and we look at how we can best align our schedule to maximize really the exposure of science to our students. We're also relying on overflow work in our mathematics classes, where similar content is addressed. As an example, I'll give you the idea of measuring data is common in math. That ties in perfectly to data analysis in science. So at grades 6-12, we're going to focus on our plain evidence reasoning tool, where we speak to a lot of our science and engineering practices. We're also going to use that as a data mining tool to track our students' progress over the course of the upcoming year. We're going to look at our New Jersey Digital Item Library, as well as a program we brought last year in orbit, to expose our students, not only to expose our students to the style of questions that are asked, but also really to hone in on the skills, mostly our science and engineering skills, that's required for our students to be able to look at data, pull information from it, and provide a synopsis of that data. We're also going to continue our audit of our common assessments to ensure that we're maximally aligning to standards and that we're incorporating our science and engineering practices into those assessments as well. And then lastly, we need to implement strategies to help our students with their reading and processing science based on non-fiction informational texts. The Njsla is a deviation from classic science texts that there's a lot of reading involved. So our students definitely need to have skills to help them approach those style of questions. All right. So now I'd like to hand over the presentation to Dr. Bavino, who's going to speak to something that we're all very excited about, and as Mrs. Polway referenced, all of our intervention slides speak to our NJTSS, or New Jersey tiered systems of support.
Thank you. I didn't know if I was going to be able to reach this height, so I have my own microphone. Can you just move the slide? Oh, thank you. Okay, so we felt that it was really important to talk about the tiered system of support. So in our district, we have started to talk with all of our teachers and our administrators about NJTSS, and soon we'll start to talk to the public as well in our formal presentation. But NJTSS is the New Jersey Tiered System of Support. It's a framework. It is not a program that we purchase. It is not something we buy. It is the way that we approach education. So when you look at the triangle on the right, you see the bottom part of the triangle is your Tier 1, so you're going to hear that a lot. Then your middle part, thank you, there's a pointer. The middle is your Tier 2, and the top is your Tier 3. And what we do when we talk about tiers is we say, how do we support children that are in each tier, or what types of supports do we provide at each tier? So when we look at data, you heard a lot from my colleagues about common assessments or interventions, or how we're going to support kids. When we look at the data, how do we support all students? Not just some, not just the ones that are at the top or the ones that are at the bottom. How do we support all? So NJTSS really looks at the way that we look at data, and we sit together as a collaborative team to say, how do we help all students at Tier 1? How do we work into all courses? What does the data show us? And then how, if we need to, incorporate small groups for students that are in a Tier 2, and then how do we incorporate individualized attention for students that are in Tier 3? If you could go to the next slide, thank you. Ultimately, these are the components of NJTSS that the state outlines make a good program or make a good system. I want to bring your attention to the third, fourth, and fifth one down. Database decision-making, collaborative problem-solving teams, and progress monitoring. The reason why I wanted to bring your attention here is because we're really excited. Our admin team has done a wonderful job, and our teachers at launching our collaborative problem-solving teams. Those are something called data teams. And data teams work to look at data that we intake. So NJSLA data, it could be a common assessment data, so something that we maybe a beginning of year assessment, and we look at that data together, and then we say, what does everyone need? What do some students need? And what do individual students need? And that team-based work is something that normally doesn't happen in education because we're so isolated in our classrooms. Individual teachers will look at data, but now we're able to do it together as a team.
We make the decision on what interventions are needed, what supports are needed for the whole school, whole class, whole program, individual small groups, and then individual student. And then we progress monitor. We don't wait until June to say, how did we do? We want to go back in every 6 to 8 weeks to make sure that we're doing the right thing. We're doing the right thing for all students. And those 3 pieces, I think, are really, really important. Ultimately, though, our goal is to ensure that all students have success. So we'll talk about this again at a later board meeting. But this is the crux of what we're doing based off our data and how we can move forward. Dominic.
Good evening. Welcome. Before I get started, I want to acknowledge the help of my 10-year-old son, who, as I was reviewing my slides, was like, Dad, that's really boring. He's like, we need better transitions. So Dominic grabbed my computer and he added this transition to the slides. Isn't that cool? All right. So I've been director of guidance 15 years. I've been doing this presentation 15 years. I started with Andrew Pito and then Kevin Ulmer. And the difference between that first presentation 15 years ago to now is 90 days. Some of the tests in the first part that Danielle and Dennis presented don't even exist anymore. Even some tests that we've done 5 years ago still don't exist anymore. But the tests, the data that I report on, SAT, ACT, AP, haven't changed in decades. This slide depicts the graduation rate from Mahwah High School over the last 4 years. Please understand that when we're looking at 2022, we had 238 students who started in Mahwah High School in September of 2021, and all 238 of those students graduated, received diplomas on the field by Cornell College in June of 2023. The graduation rate is actually 97%. The state gives us a time period for us to review the data that we submitted to identify errors. We identified 8 students which were approved by the state as having graduated, and our graduation rate will be updated in December, and it'll be close to 97%. But why isn't our graduation rate not 100%? The graduation rate is determined by the cohort of students. So students who started in that 4-year period when these kids started and then didn't finish. There were 3 students. None of these students were Mahwah High School born and bred. There were 1 student who came in March, left in June. Another couple of students weren't even with us for a year. So all the students who started with this cohort, okay, that we call our Mahwah kids, all graduated. SAT, sure everyone remembers their SAT score. SAT's at 1,600. There's 800 for each of the 2 parts. There's no longer an essay component anymore. The numbers are consistent with the trend across the state and country due to the test optional policy. Many students didn't take an SAT or ACT, or took it just once. It was close to 2,000 colleges are now test SAT or ACT optional. All the Ivies are test optional. Rutgers, Marist, Clemson, Michigan are all test optional schools. So it doesn't impact our students in their admissions process. For example, we had 34 kids apply to the University of Delaware last year. Of those 34 kids, 19 got in, and of those 19, 10 were test optional. And that number of 55 to 60% is consistent over the years of our students who get accepted to the University of Delaware. In light of this year, for the first time, we made the conscious decision, with the support of the board, to offer the PSAT, the practice SAT, to all our students, to our 10th and 11th grade students. So it was at no cost to the student. The district picked up the cost. Last year, we had 200 students take the PSAT. This year, we had 416. So this will give, the results of this test will not only give students a great piece of information in preparation for SATs, but also give our English and math teachers really rich data in which to work to help our students prepare and build on some of these skills. The ACT, college looks at either the SAT or the ACT. The ACT has 4 parts. So math, English, reading, science, and the composite is the average of the 4 schools. Our consistent, if you look at our composite score for Mahwah High School is 26.9, New Jersey State mean is 25.1, and national mean is 19.9. Incidentally, the ACT revealed that this is the lowest national composite score in over 30 years. So this trend that we're seeing with SATs and ACTs is something that colleges are recognizing, and the testing agencies, SAT and ACT, are also recognizing. AP, this is our advanced placement report. AP class advanced placement classes, we offer 24 of them. They're college level classes. Students can earn either a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. If a student earns a 3, 4, or 5 on an AP exam, in most colleges they can get college credit. So last year we had 241 students. We had 241 students take an AP exam. 87% of our students scored a 3 or better. 40% of our building, 40% of our building, our high school building, grades 10 through 12 took an AP class last year. And 51% of our seniors, okay, took at least one AP and earned at least a 3, 4, or 5. So 51% of our students are leaving Mahwah High School with credits in their back pocket for college, which I think is very impressive. These are our average AP scores by subject. Here's the subject test. Again, we offer 24. And here's the average score. Remember, 3, 4, or 5 will earn a student college credit at most institutions. So you see the rigor, the intensity, and the effectiveness our teachers have in getting our students to perform at above grade level and at the college level. These are percent of our students attending college, class of 2022. Okay. Remember, we had 238, 94.5%. Will attend 4 or 2-year colleges. 199 of the 238 will attend a 4-year school. 20 will attend a 2-year college. 6 students are technical career education, and 13 students are other. Other is gap year employment or technical trade schools. I love this slide. It really speaks to what our kids are about. Last year, we had students, this year we have in the class of 2022, 30 are attending college in 31 different states. 107 different schools, college and university in 31 different states. And this, which means it shows us that what our kids learn here, the character, the confidence, the educational foundation, and they're not afraid to venture out and branch off into other places. And this number keeps going up. Last year was 31, the year before that was 28, the year before that was 25, and the year before that was 24. So every year our kids are branching out, which I think is really a testament to the types of kids that we have. Each January I bring back the senior, the previous graduating class for alumni return day. And the first question I always ask them is, they come to talk to our current seniors and talk about what their first semester was like away from Mahwah High School, and what that feeling was being in college. And the first question I was asking them, were you prepared? And 99% of them said they were absolutely prepared for college. That Mahwah High School led the foundation for them to be successful. And this is where our students end up. Princeton, Cornell, Michigan, Virginia, Air Force Academy, Fordham, NYU, George Washington, Providence, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, several University of California schools. So when we talk about our test score, start from kindergarten all the way up, and we analyze the scores, and we talk about all the different things that make up a student. The bottom line is when we look at our AP score, the students be prepared. You see where our students wind up and where they land. There's not another district around that can compare to us. Thank you.
Microphone. Okay, thank you very much for that comprehensive report. Do we have any board member questions, remarks? Dr. Park, excuse me.
Yes, can you hear me? Okay. Thank you for a really thorough report. One thing I noticed is that from the previous year, economic disadvantage and students with disabilities seem to have been added as a data category, which I think is great. Thank you for doing that and for continuing to dig in to the data in terms of which students are achieving and which are not. I just want to point out, as I did last year, that there continue to be significant disparities based on economics, based on race, based on language. Just listening to some community members come up over the past 2 days and say that race doesn't matter in Mahwah, data, right? So we just looked at a whole lot of data that suggests that it does, right? And so I think we need to continue digging into that, disaggregating for income as well, right? And trying to really pinpoint what is going on here. Is it primarily economics that are driving these gaps in achievement? Is it race? Those questions are still not really answered. And I hope that Dr. Gravino mentioned some future presentations. So I hope that in the future presentation, you will all dig more into that, as well as give us more in terms of the solutions to some of these gaps.
Thank you, Dr. Park. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Dr. Tortora, did you have anything further? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Saccone, did you have something? I'm sorry if I didn't see your hand. Okay. Oh, no, not yet. No, we're on anything related to the testing report. Okay. Now let's go to Mr. Bleeker's report. Do we have a report? Mr. Bleeker from the Secretary today?
Thank you. No report this evening. However, I just want to recognize as a point of order that Mr. Silva has joined the meeting. He's on the dais. And also, I neglected to mention earlier, Mr. Ryan Stanford, our student representative, is also on the dais this evening. Again, just wanted to make that correction to the roll call from earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bleeker. Dr. Fair, do you have a report for us this evening?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I apologize. So good evening. I have 3 items to report on this evening. The first is agenda item 18A. We have a retirement to announce. Ms. Kathy Coney is an instructional paraprofessional in our district. She is not only a Mahwah graduate, but she has given 25 years of service to the district at both Betsy Ross School and George Washington School most recently, as well as in a variety of out-of-district placements. I just recently had a conversation with Ms. Coney, and she shared that she has a lot of mixed feelings about retiring. One thing I think is really important to know about Ms. Coney is she's a very kind person who shared that she will miss the students at both Betsy Ross School and George Washington School tremendously, as well as her colleagues. She wanted to bid farewell to her colleagues in a more, in a formal way. So we wish Kathy nothing but the best in her years of retirement. The second piece, a notification recently went out regarding a paraprofessional job fair. It's scheduled for Tuesday, October 25th. Like we do with most of our communication, this will not be the only notice. We will send out another notification, and we've already received some clarifying questions and some interest from our community members, so that's great. The third piece, we have a person we would like to recommend for appointment this evening. We'll have him stand up first and just do a wave. This is Mr. Robert Coney. So let me formally introduce him. So our supervisor of technology integration interview process consisted of 3 phases, where our finalists talked through what a presentation would look like related to teachers' use of Google Suite applications for the purposes of data collection. We asked our candidates to think through instructional strategies that would assist our teachers too in using this data in their respective classrooms as a follow-up to their presentation. Ultimately, Mr. Robert Kalman served as our selected candidate. Currently, Mr. Kalman serves as a computer science teacher, as well as the technology integration coordinator for Ramsey School District. Through the interview process, Mr. Kalman showcased his likability, relatability, and his passion for technology integration. In his closing, in his interview, Mr. Kalman admittedly referred to this position as his dream job, and we certainly believe he'll be an asset to our instructional leadership team. Mr. Kalman's references identify him as thorough, creative, and he will run with any project. He is respected by his colleagues and currently serves as a resource for the staff of Ramsey. His attention to detail and his initiative are key pieces of Mr. Kalman's work that his references also identify as his strengths. We look forward to having Bobby join our leadership team, and we recommend him wholeheartedly. That's my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Fair. That is working. All right, thank you very much. Oh, and I have a throw-in of Dr. Natoro.
Before we continue with the rest of the meeting, I just wanted to thank our administrative team for being here last night and tonight. And I just wanted to offer, if you're more than welcome to go to be with your families. We've been plenty of nights for you to be here. We wanted to welcome our members.
Right before my president's report.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're invited.
Maybe you want to stay for Dr. Murphy's president's
I could
report.
have some like breaking news or something. No, I'm just kidding.
There's no head trash.
Feel free. But thank you for coming.
Mr. Kalman, I would say that.
All right, we'll continue with our president's report. First, so welcome to Mr. Collins. Thank you very much. Maybe you want to stay for a few minutes? Anyway, and also I just wanted to, I know Mr. Copeland will also say this similar things, and I'm going to say it, that if you notice up on the days today, we're having our Thunderbird Spirit following in the high school, because tomorrow is Thunderbird Thursday. So I just wanted, you could talk about it again, Mr. Copeland, all right? And you should, because it was your reminder to bring it up that we kick off at our Wednesday night meeting. So our first Board of Ed Thunderbird Wednesday, I guess, in kickoff. All right. I also have a report on some information of our PSAT semifinalist for the class of 2023. Luke Blajewski is a recipient of this honor. He has been named as a member of the top 16,000 students from the original pool of 1.5 million juniors who took the PSAT in 2021. So congratulations to him. We also have some commended students as well who received an accolade for being commended students, and these are Mason Anton, Nadesh Kumar, Charlotte Kaya, Elizabeth Mastrangelo, Kieran Malak, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing any of these names correctly, Cyril Reek, Megan Shumker, Tommaso Smith, Arnav Tendolkar, and Joseph Tomaskovic, and Vicky Yang. They've been named as commended students in the 2023 National Merit Scholarship Program. Letter of commendation from the school and National Merit Scholar Corporation will be presented to them. I think it's been presented by Mr. Pascal. So again, congratulations to all of our students and the good things that they're doing. And the only last thing I had is, as a family who celebrates Diwali, I just want to wish everyone a happy Diwali that's coming up on Monday, the 24th. Yes, Mr. Copeland, you could say it again. I just have to say it since I'm a Diwali celebrator. Okay? All right, thank you. All right, next, board committee reports. Who do I have? Let's see. We'll go to Mr. Copeland, community relations.
I actually have two reports. Transportation a couple weeks ago, and we are progressing with our work with Kyle and Tracy. I want to thank both of them for taking the time to spend with us. We are asking a lot of questions. We are pushing for a lot of data, a lot of info. I do want to throw it out there to the public. Transportation is a topic that is brought up frequently in the community. We have heard from some community members publicly. We've heard from some privately as well. I'm encouraging all community members, if you have questions, ideas, concerns, feel free to reach out to me via email and get me those ideas. We can look at them as a committee and bring it to the administration and kind of review them and see where we can go with it. But our work is ongoing, and I think we're going in the right direction. So thank you to the committee members and to the administration for supporting this. My next report is from community relations, my community corner. As Dr. Morthy stole my thunder, tonight is the first Thunderbird Spirit event meeting. I want to thank everyone who was participating. Obviously, the class of '93 did not get the memo. Just saying, tattoos do not count.
And we bring their spirit all the time, right, Mr. Copeland?
Yeah, Mr. Mahwah, all right, Diwali, as Dr. Morthy mentioned, is starting on October 24th this year. It's lasting 5 days, and the holiday is celebrated by millions of Hindus and Sikhs worldwide. The name of the festival is derived from Avali, which means row, and Deepa, meaning clay lamps. When merged, these words mean a row of lights. For this reason, lights are symbolic of this festival, and Indians go overboard with sparklers and fireworks to fuel the air light that spiritually protects them from darkness. So for all those that celebrate, may your dwelling be free from darkness and abundant with light. Halloween is coming up on October 31st, and this fun fact is from Mr. Gallo. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the highest number of lit jack-o'-lanterns on display is 30,581 by the city of Keene, New Hampshire. That feat was accomplished in 2013. Total random fun fact. November is Native American Heritage Month. It's celebrated every November to honor the remarkable Native Americans who contributed to improve the character of our nation. Coming up on November 8th is Election Day. This is a little bit of a PSA because things have changed a little bit in the state of New Jersey. There are 3 ways to vote this year. November 8th, you can go to the polling place. It's open 6 to 8, like we always have. You could also apply for a mail-in ballot. The deadline for that in Bergen County is November 1st. And then early voting is somewhat new this year. That will start on October 26th, go until November 6th. Mahwah is one of 9 locations in Bergen County that will have a polling place, and that will be in the senior center. It'll be open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 8, and then on Sundays, 10 to 6.
Veterans Day is November 11th and is a tribute to military veterans who have served in the U.S. Armed Forces, not to be confused with Memorial Day, which honors those who died while in service. Veterans Day honors all military veterans, including those still with us. Please take the time with your children to discuss the importance of honoring our veterans, not just on November 11th, but every day. And then another PSA, daylight savings time ends on November 6th, so don't forget to turn your clocks back. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Copeland. Any other reports? Ms. Davenero has a report for us this evening.
Thank you. It's exciting, right?
Thank you.
So last Monday, Mr. Gallo and I joined Mahwah Access for All at their monthly meeting. For those of you who don't know what the program is, I'm going to read you a quick little blurb. Access for All in Mahwah was established in May of 2016 with a very specific charter providing Mahwah and area residents of every age, children, adults, and seniors, a dedicated and community-focused commission to serve those with special needs, developmental disabilities, and physical access needs. The team is comprised of community and township appointed members, each providing diverse experiences and unique skill sets with a laser focus on improving and enhancing the lives of Mahwah community residents by creating and magnifying awareness, providing voice to Mahwah leaders in an advisory role, and serving as an educational and social forum for those in need. Mahwah is known for our special education program. People come to this town specifically for that. So Access for All is a program that we should definitely be working in partnership with. There's definitely a student aspect of that population that we could be really offering other services to, or they could be supplementing services back. We had a really great productive conversation. We are setting up a meeting with their advisory board between them and us as the Board of Education to just kind of talk through what some of the options are. What can they do? You know, we can't just give out obviously like student information, but how can we get information from them into the schools so that those families are aware of the programs that exist? I have had the distinct honor through TMYSB of volunteering with the All-Star program that Tommy Murphy runs for us and work with that community. There's nothing more gratifying than doing that. We're volunteering that time one Saturday a month in the fall and in the spring. They're also have their Halloween event coming up this Friday. They're always looking for volunteers. You can reach out directly to them through their Facebook page or through their website. And it's just a really wonderful program, and I'm really looking forward over the next couple of weeks to see how we can really partner with them from the Board of Education side.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Davenero. Ryan, do you have a report for us this evening as our student representative today?
Yeah, I have a couple of things I want to talk about, upcoming and recent events from the high school. Spirit Week was last week. We started off with the student first back soccer game, as Dr. Ochoa mentioned. That was a lot of fun, and these students took an unfortunate loss in that. We're going to work on that for next year. We also had daily theme days where students dressed up or participated in a special activity. There was anything but a backpack day, Hawaiian day, twin day, dress like Adam Sandler day, and class color day. These were all a lot of fun, and we had some great participation on all grade levels from that. We also had the Spirit Rally, which happened at the end of the day on Friday last week. The whole school came outside onto the football field, and we had some music-based competitions like individual performances and some dancing performances. One included from a teacher, which was pretty great. And all that was just a lot of fun to kick off the school year and build some school spirit going into this year. And it was a really great Spirit Week, very successful. We have the 8th grade open house on October 26th. We're going to be having National Honor Society and student government students volunteering at that. It's going to start off in the auditorium with Mr. Pascal speaking, and after that, the 8th graders are going to break up into 3 groups, going to the library, gym, and T3 building, rotating around, where they're all going to learn different things about the high school and tour around. We're going to be having a Halloween costume contest. We're going to be able to have it on Halloween this year, which is pretty great. Some years we don't have that. That's going to take place in the library. There's different categories for costumes that students can win based on our teacher judges, and that's always a lot of fun. This week is School Violence Awareness Week. So we had a practice lockdown procedure on Monday, as well as a word of wisdom this morning on the PA announcement. And that was about a page-long thing about preventing violence and reaching out to trusted adults for people at risk. So we have words of wisdom every Wednesday, some about different topics. So we chose this week's to be about school violence. On October 23rd, the marching band is going to be competing at Clifton Stadium for the 75th Annual North Jersey Band Festival. We recently won Best Performance Award at our latest competition. We're looking to win some more things there. The Thunderbird Run is upcoming this weekend. It's going to be between students and staff participating. And finally, our most recent home football game, Action to Athletics, which is a club at the high school, had a Pink Out fundraiser for breast cancer awareness. And we raised over $400 for the Susan G. Cohen Foundation for cancer research. So that was a great success. That's all I have.
Great, thank you very much. And thank you for reminding us about the Thunderbird Run, Mr. Copeland. Perhaps a community, oh, it's coming up.
Anyone's stealing Ryan's stuff.
Like someone else did, okay. All right, any other reports? Mr. Denise?
Policy has 6 policies and regulations on tonight's agenda for the first reading. Policy and Regulation 2425, emergency virtual or remote instruction program. This policy has been revised to provide the statutory and newspaper code requirements for a school district's virtual or remote instruction plan, which is required to be submitted to the New Jersey Department of Education Commissioner by September 30th this year and annually thereafter. Policy 1511, Board of Education website accessibility, requires that the school district's website content and functionality be accessible for people with disabilities. The policy is being revised to remove an exception for technical and additional information technology work that would impose an undue burden or create a fundamental alteration of the district's websites. Policy 2415, Every Student Succeeds Act, has been revised to include minor language changes by replacing the words parental involvement with parental and family engagement. Policy and Regulation 5513, Care of School Property, has been revised to include an updated process to assess and collect textbook fines, in addition to several minor language changes and updated legal citations. Policy 5517, School District issued student identification cards, has been revised to require that student identification cards in grades 7 through 12 have printed on the back of the student identification cards the telephone number for the New Jersey Suicide Prevention Helpline and the contact information for the crisis text line. This is currently being done with all 6 to 12 ID cards in our district. Policy and Regulation 2432, school-sponsored publications, is being abolished and replaced with Policy 5722, student journalism. This is a new policy requiring school districts to adopt a written policy concerning student freedom of expression, allowing student journalists the right to exercise freedom of speech in of the press and school-sponsored media.
Thank you, Mr. Denise. Do we have any other board committee reports? Okay. I also just wanted to thank, we did receive a copy, all board members, of the Tom, which is the newspaper for Mahwah High School. So I want to thank you to those who put that together, and thank you for giving us a copy. Mr. Kozmarski, is that right? Class of 93 participant at the Tom. Excellent. All right, let's, oh, sorry. Mr. Clone, did you have a report?
Yes, I just wanted to mention that Mr. Gallo and I recently attended the first meeting of the school year of the Bergen County School Board Association. And the topic for the evening was financial planning during times of inflation. The 4 guest speakers were school business administrators from 4 Bergen County towns, and they discussed the difficulties and creative solutions for financing 4 areas, and those areas are nursing, health insurance, transportation, and faculty and staff salaries.
Thank you very much for attending and reporting, Mr. Clone and Mr. Gallo. Okay, board committee, just board member remarks or any additional comments? Mr. Cobb.
I just wanted to point out, we just finished 2 nights of our equity audit town hall, and I just wanted to point out and thank all the community members who came out. We had, and Dr. Charlie have a better number than I do, but I'm guessing about 120, 125 people come out the last 2 nights to participate. And again, I just want to thank everyone who took the time to do that and have their voices heard. Remind everyone that there is an email address. If you're not able to come tonight and be here in person, please use that email address and send your comments in. It's important that we do get representation from the entire community so that the report that we do receive, in the late winter or early spring time frame, is complete and we're able to see good representation of our entire community. So, thank you.
And Mr. Copeland, just a point of clarification from the ear here, I got 160 participants, so, yes. Exactly, so a super turnout, and yes, thank you to all who participated and had their voices heard last night and tonight. Yes, Mr. De Silva. You're going to push that, yeah. It takes a minute. I couldn't figure it out either.
How about we go to this one? I just wanted to follow up with Mr. Copeland's remarks. The website is equityaudit at mahwah.k12.nj. If anybody wants to send something there, that's the email.
Thank you. Mr. Gallo, what do you have for us this evening?
I just have one quick note about the election. If you are voting by paper ballot, the council positions and the Board of Education positions are on the second side. So please vote and make sure to vote for all the candidates who are available on page 1 and on page 2. So.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gallo, for clarification. All right, did I miss anyone? Anyone else? Okay. Let's move on then to old business. First, we have the minutes that we need to approve. So, we have a motion for the minutes. Mr. Kuzmarski, second by Mr. Copeland. Mr. Bleeker?
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Ms. Davenero.
Yes.
Mr. De Silva.
Yes.
Mr. Denise.
Yes.
Mr. Gallo.
Yes.
Mr. Kesmarski.
Yes.
Dr. Park.
Yes.
Mrs. Cohn.
Yes.
And Dr. Murphy.
Yes. All right, let's move on to new business. We have an A to U on new business. We have a motion on A to U new business, Mr. Copeland, and a second by Mr. De Silva. All right, any questions, discussion, Mr. De Silva?
Yeah, I'd like to call out 17R and thank the anonymous donor for the $2,500 donation to the high school music program.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Bleeker.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Ms. Davenero. Mr. De Silva.
Yes.
Mr. Denise.
Yes.
Mr. Gallo.
Yes, except in 17A, I am abstaining from check number 108761.
Mr. Kesmarski.
Yes.
Dr. Park.
Yes.
Ms. Saccone,
Yes.
and Dr. Worthy.
Yes. All right, let's take now 18, new business personnel. Let's do 18A. We'll do retirement separately first, and then we'll do the remaining. So on 18A, do I have a motion and a second, Mr. Copeland, and a second by Mr. Kazmarsky? Thank you. All right, Mr. Bleeker, on 18A, please, the retirement.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes, and thank you for your 25 years here in the district.
Ms. Davenera, Mr. De Silva,
Yes.
Mr. Denise,
Yes.
Mr. Gallo,
Yes.
Mr. Kazmarsky,
Yes.
Dr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Saccone,
Yes.
and Dr. Worthy.
Yes. All right, now let's take 18B to S. Correct. All right, do I have a motion for 18B to S? Mr. Denise, and a second by Mr. Gallo. Mr. Bleeker?
Mr. Copeland,
Yes, and thank you to all the volunteers at the Bridge for volunteering time for the flag.
Ms. Davenera,
Yes.
Mr. De Silva,
On 18C, Mr. Common, I'm sure you've heard that you have some tremendous shoes to fill, and I wish you all the luck in the world. It's a very important position to this district. I'm glad that you've come over from the dark side. So congratulations and good luck. Yes.
Mr. Denise,
Yes.
Mr. Gallo,
Yes, echoing Mr. De Silva's comments on 18C.
Mr. Kazmarsky.
Just to add to his comments, when I read the report, that one of the comments was Ramsey's loss is Mahwah game, made me very happy with that. I love coaching Ramsey's best, and you're going to be very good. So yes.
Dr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Saccone,
Yes.
and Dr. Worthy.
Yes, and you'll find out very quickly, Mr. Common, that I require quite a lot of assistance in the technology department, so putting it out there. Getting better. All right, public questions or comment. Public participation at board meetings is in accordance with bylaw 0167. At this time, members of the public may ask questions or make a comment on educational issues or school matters of community interest. As a matter of fairness, you're asked to limit questions to no more than one and your remarks to no longer than 3 minutes. If you are here representing a group, please identify yourself, group, and your position in the group. If you are here as an individual, please give us your name and address. All right, I need a motion to open the meeting to the public. Mr. Kazmarsky, second by Mr. De Silva. Okay, we are officially open to the public. And for this portion, we'll just use the middle mic, not the other 2 and 3 that we have. Thank you.
Hi, Lou Theodoro. In Dr. Toro's opening remarks at the 5:30 meeting, he mentioned that the reason behind the equity audit is that it was agreed upon, I guess it was before your term, in 2019 as part of the strategic plan for the district. And one of my concerns about doing an equity audit at this time was that to me, it was turning a blind eye to the obvious pandemic issues and motor learning issues, not being in school, schools closed. And as Dr. Park said, the data was presented today on what those problems with remote learning, particularly in science. I guess in science, it was all remote for longer than the other subjects, longer than math and reading, is that correct? The science and social studies?
The large portion of when we were remote, when we were on the truncated days, when we had access to the students in person, we focused, especially at the lower elementary levels, K through 3, of having us being hyper-focused on reading instruction and math instruction. The ancillary science and social studies activities were touched upon, but the bulk of it did happen after they were out.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of And those numbers played out because the lower level science scores were particularly disturbing. Less than a third of kids meeting or exceeding grade level. Get to those numbers, you get further on. So, my concern about the everywhere still is that this is taking away time, and I've mentioned this about SEL in general, that, you know, I don't understand why a 5-minute SEL has to be given at the beginning math class. As a prior, we actually have said in the prior report. My concern with the equity order is that it's taking resources, money, time away from the obvious issues that, particularly the science and the mathematics as well. So what is the plan to improve those numbers? Are those numbers significantly, I mean, they did give the numbers now, and they seem quite poor, but are they significantly worse than pre-pandemic? I assume they are. I believe that our district was only a third of the kids meeting or exceeding grade level, expected grade level for those subjects. And what can we do to improve that resource-wise, time-wise? There's only so many hours a day. I much, speaking personally, a daughter in seventh grade, I'd much rather if she had extra time in science than be asked about her feelings about bias, for example, or any of the equity questions that they're going to ask her. I'm considering opting her out. I'll email you separately on that, but it just seems that we're turning blind eyes to the obvious problem. Most people send their kids to school so that they can learn reading, writing, arithmetic, science, social studies. The other stuff, the equity stuff, a lot of the other stuff we do at home. We don't have the resources to conduct a science lab, for a seventh grade. I can teach my daughter how to be a good person, how to be equitable, how to respect, to give justice to others. Running a science lab is not something I can necessarily do at home. So what research are we doing to address that?
Thank you for your question. There are a couple pieces, so let me kind of work through a couple of the different sections. I believe, and I'm sorry if it didn't come through clearly, Mr. Jarvis shared that when we did an analysis of the difference of score between us and the state in 2022 to 2019, they're very comparable within a couple numbers of the 3 to 6%, I think it is the differential. And the reason why I'm saying that to you is because, to give you the historical perspective, the way that the state used to report out on scores is they used to be able to give us compared to the state and us compared to the DFG. And DFG is like districts of our makeup. That being said, the first thing that we did was reach out to surrounding districts to see how our scores compare to their scores. Unfortunately, we're one of the first districts to report out, so everyone was very close to their vest along the lines of their scores, so they weren't able to share. We were able to talk to an outside agency that gave us a glimpse of similar districts to us, and we're within the same band along the lines of proficiency. I don't want to give you wrong numbers, so I can't tell you the specifics of that, because they're just not published yet.
I'm not trying to be critical just of I understand this is a global problem.
No, I understand. I just wanted to just articulate that because I know that it was a dense presentation. I just wanted to bring that out specifically. The scores, that's number one. The second piece, which I think is a very good question, is along the lines of, well, what's our plan? We can sit up here and we can say, well, this created that, and that really doesn't help anything out. What really helps us out is for us to acknowledge that there's definitely room for improvement, and we need to be hyper-focused on our students in front of us. I know Dr. Ravino was able to give a brief overview of NJTSS. Let me just elaborate. She did a wonderful job. Let me just elaborate and continue that conversation. The very foundation of NJTSS is for us to be very much aware of our students' proficiency levels specific to all subject areas. And that awareness comes through the data that we have in front of us. That could be the NJSLA data, that could be our homegrown assessment data. And for us to really be intentional with looking at it and understanding the academic profiles of all the students in front of us. The benefit of that is for us to really create intentional plans for our teachers, with our teachers is the most important piece, to really identify those different gaps or those different areas to build them as learners. So when you're talking about what taking away or turning a blind eye. I want you to be.
I don't mean it that way. I'm more. I want to make sure that the resources are.
I totally understand, and that's why I'm glad you brought up the question, because I know that there's going to be a question from many people along the lines of, well, what's your plan? I want the community to know that the scores that we have, even though this is one assessment, there are plenty of assessments for us to be very thoughtful about and understand what those proficiencies are of what that assessment tells us.
Do your internal assessments mirror those numbers?
Along the lines of, it all depends on the assessment and it all depends on the standard, because these assessments, the way we're breaking them down, and not to get too far into the weeds here, in order to break them down, the state gives us a report broken out by standard. So now we're really looking at each standard and how our schools or our students performed by the standard. So it's really intentional work, and they're very much looking at every aspect of that assessment as well as our homegrown assessment. So that process that you're asking about, being that we just receive these tests, as we go through the year and the students start to perform on those standards, because the scope and sequence calls for it at a certain time of the year, we can side by side those assessments to make sure that we're doing our due diligence. There's also a number of things that we do specific to resources along the lines of professional development, specific to questioning and discussion techniques, creating environments that allow students to engage in learning in a more meaningful way. So there's a commitment from our district on that instructional side. That's number one. The work that we're doing specific to our equity audit, I want to be very clear. That is not in replacement of, it's in addition to.
I want to make sure it's not detracting from something else.
Right, we're not taking time away from this specific period or this specific learning experience to do the audit. The audit actually is working in conjunction with what we're doing and simultaneously while we're doing our work. That audit is, to be quite honest, except for the student survey and them interfacing with their students or the teachers, it's really, to be quite honest with you, gathering the community's perspective and the teacher's perspective, the parents, and doing that work. Also, they're looking at our curriculum, our policies, and things like that. That's not going to take away from the instructional practice they're having.
The student survey, is that going to be during school time, or is that going to be at home?
That's a good question too. Once we get a hand on our student surveys, we'll work with administration to see what that would look like. I know that there's a time period for the students to complete them, so I don't have an answer for you at this time of what that experience or when that's going to take place. Right now, we're hyper focused on making sure that we get a copy of those, send it out to the parents, and it's my hope that we have a high participation rate so we can get a clear picture of our community.
Okay, I'm sorry to be so long. Thank you.
No, thank you for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Theodora.
Can I please comment?
Oh, sure, Dr. Park.
Thank you. So I completely agree with you. Thank you for continuing to bring up the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on our kids. One of my children is definitely behind in his fine motor skills, and we're working on that. And we're trying. His skills definitely would have been better if it wasn't for COVID. However, the pandemic also really severely impacted my children socially and emotionally. And I don't think my kids are alone in this. It is something we're working on at home, but we do need the schools to help. One of my kids would have been developing friendships, learning social and emotional skills, and the pandemic forced him to stay at home and not develop those skills. So I would urge you to think about children like mine, who some of the most severe impacts of quarantine and of the pandemic were social and emotional, right? And, I think it's important to recognize that for some kids, academics were severely impacted. For others, it might have been social and emotional, and for lots of kids, maybe all of the above, right? But I really need help getting, some of my children socially and emotionally back on track. And I'm thankful that I'm in a school district that will help with that. So I would urge you to think about some of those kids.
Ryan, 22 Liberty Terrace. I wasn't at yesterday's town hall meeting. I was at today's town hall meeting. I remember the meeting ending saying we're not to bring up what was said at the town hall meeting, and yet when you seemingly sarcastically said that parents were saying that there's no difference in race, and then you said it's in the data.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Just forward your questions to me, or
So
your comments,
Dr.
thank you.
Clark, mentioned the meeting, and we were told we did not discuss it because we're there to speak our minds openly and don't be afraid, lean into it, let's be uncomfortable. And people spoke, and then have that repeated here when talking about the proofs in the data that there's a difference between race and socioeconomic status.
Let me understand your comment, but I think Dr. Park was speaking about the testing presentation.
No, it's about, he said the last 2 nights we've had people come up saying there's no difference. You know, everybody in town, we're all the same, there's no difference in the people.
Okay.
And then saying there's in the data.
And there was, okay, now I understand your point. Continue.
So that was a rude comment and went against exactly what we were told not to do. And I don't know the 16 other or 15 other companies that you guys looked into to do the equity audit, but us squared, I looked into the CEO, Chief Empowerment Officer, and under her leadership as a superintendent, and if a school in our district failed with you at the helm, who would be held responsible if a school was forced to shut down? I'll get to my point.
Yeah, please.
She was the superintendent at a school, and she mentioned she was a superintendent at a school, so I wanted to know where she taught, so I started, or not taught, where she was the superintendent. So I looked into it, and in April, she was appointed in September of 2017 to a school, and in August of 2018, that school posted on their private Facebook page, and it's still there today, because I scrolled all the way back to 2018 to see. They're closing their doors. And this is for a special needs, group of special needs. I would call them, it seemed like it was more young adult, not necessarily schools like our set, like not a K through 12. It was more like teens and early 20s to get them job opportunities and things like that. But it was a superintendent title. That school was was saying that they had to close. Teachers were quitting. They felt that they were replaceable. There was no morale among the staff. The students leave the school to go to a different school, and through community support, a rallying of the community, because this school was so important to those people that had special needs. There was over 200 people at the school. They managed to stay open. Obviously, I didn't reach out to the school to find out the backstory in the past 4 years, but and she mentions that's when she was launching her side gig, which is now her current gig. So I'm curious, we had 16 different, from what you said, you had to read 16 different groups. We choose this group, and with her as the superintendent, it seems that she failed her school, and I'm curious how she's then going to tell us, or anybody for that matter, how to run their schools.
So let me address it. First of all, I want to caution everyone on doing Google searches through Facebook pages and the legitimacy of those. So I'm just sharing that I think it's very important that everyone has a perspective and a side, and I would be irresponsible to sit up here and talk about someone's professional career prior to us engaging with them. What I can tell you is, when we spoke to the different groups on this work, we spoke about what we needed as a district, what we were hoping for as a district, and when we came across us squared, we felt as though it was extremely important that we engaged a group that was looking to understand us. When we worked with other groups, we felt as though that was not what they were looking to do. We didn't like their approach. We didn't like the way that they handled the conversations. And when we met with this group, we felt like the sensitivity and understanding of this work. We felt like their willingness to listen to our community. We felt like their understanding of the topic. And we felt like the recommendations that they shared with us were aligned with what we were hoping to get here. Again, I feel as though it's not appropriate for us to talk about other individuals prior to them engaging with us outside of their organization. If you want to talk about the organization, I'm more than happy to. But along the lines of professional experiences prior that I don't have information to go back and forth along the lines of this is correct or that's not. I'm not comfortable in having that conversation right now. But I can tell you the organization itself, I'm very much happy and really proud of the way that the last 2 nights went, because this is a very heavy topic. I thought it was handled with respect. Everybody's opinion was valued. And everyone was able to come and contribute and encouraged to contribute no matter what side they were on. So I'm looking forward to our continued relationship with this group and very hopeful that it's going to reap the benefits of an awareness of what we can do in the future.
I just want to be clear, this was a news article, it wasn't a Facebook, but I went and did my due diligence to see if that school in fact, and they mentioned her higher grade by name, so it wasn't simply a Facebook post, it was a news article.
And I just want to capstone that when we started the search for an outside consultant, we weren't going to settle, right? So we were looking for someone who would be the right fit for Mahwah. And I just want to echo what Dr. Otoro just shared. I felt that what occurred over the last 2 evenings was a very open opportunity with zero judgment, which is what we need right now. And I think that as a launch, it's been successful. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Dr. Mark, did you have anything to say, or did you want to just leave it?
Sure. Part of speaking publicly on issues that are controversial is, hearing when someone, really passionately disagrees. And I very passionately disagree with some of the things that I heard over the last 2 days. As a community member, as a father, and member of the Board of Education, it's my right to say so. I did not single anyone out, did not call anyone by name. I just said that there was a narrative that I heard over the past few days from quite a few people that I passionately believe is wrong and disagree with. And so it is my right to say so. My saying so does not prevent anyone from coming in the future and disagreeing with me and speaking their mind at the microphone. I have no power to do so, nor would I want to. And so I stand by my comments. I believe that there are significant achievement gaps here in Mahwah, but also everywhere in this country and everywhere else. And it is the job of the administration and the staff and everyone else to recognize those achievement gaps exist, get to the bottom of why they exist, and do the best that they can to close those gaps and do the best for all students. So no one was targeted out by my remarks. I said what I believe, and I stand by it.
Thank you, Dr. Park.
She asked you just to not talk about it, period, not single somebody out.
Ms. Ryan, to me.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Please stop.
I've asked him because you addressed his comments directly. I know, but I let him have an opportunity to speak.
The issue I held with that was simply it wasn't don't talk about Sally. It was simply don't talk about it, period. And it was brought up at this meeting, which is publicly broadcasted, where the other one was a private meeting that you actually had to show up and be a part of to hear that dialogue. I didn't hear yesterday. I don't know what happened yesterday, and I wish I could have been there, but I couldn't. So that's a lost opportunity for me, and I wasn't there. And nobody should, from what the woman said, nobody should be repeating what happened.
Okay. Understood. Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Okay. Do I have a motion to close our meeting to the public? Mr. Guzmarski, second by Mr. Cone. All right, we will be, I need a motion to recess. We are going to recess to executive session. There will be no further action taken, and we will then adjourn from there directly. So, motion to recess to executive session, Mr. Guzmarski, second by Mr. De Silva, and we thank you all for coming tonight.